How y'all doing? I'm Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
This is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
This is the Bob and Dan show. Dan's going to start us off. He's going to do the other reports, and I'm going to do the recharge part. So, Dan, I've been working with Dan for like 5 years or so, something like that, in the enterprise reporting group in ITS. And don't ask him about vintage Italian motorcycles.
Whatever you do. Thank you, Bob. Welcome, everyone. Just so we know we're in the right session, we are going to be talking about Infoport reporting that is non-financial. I know we have a number of sessions here that have been dealing with financial reporting. We're going to be touching on some areas that are not financial reporting. Bob's going to be handling something known as cores/recharge. So this session is primarily for people who either have some Infoport experience in areas that are not what we're going to talk about and are interested in learning more, or you maybe have no idea what Infoport is and you'd like to learn what you can do with it. So we're going to be talking about that. So we're talking a bit about student reporting, HR reporting, faculty reporting, and then kind of miscellaneous. There's some other things in Infoport. Thank you. Always best to know what you're in for. Anyone else? The time is now. Mass exodus. And we're going to talk about some of the systems that are not reporting related. My name is Dan Kilo. I'm an application specialist. What that really means is that I'm an application developer. I'm working in an area called ERDS, Enterprise Reporting and Data Systems, headed up by Rachel Serrano, and with this fine crew over here, I'm sorry I didn't call you out. And we manage the Enterprise Data Warehouse. Now, what is that? Well, we collect the data from Connect Carolina, changes that happen during the day. We bring that in overnight. We do some slice and dice and transformation. We combine some data elements together for easier access, and then the next day we make that stuff available in Infoport for reporting purposes. What is Infoport? Well, it's a secure system. It's a layer that sits on top of the data warehouse and the analytics warehouse, which is really where our data resides and where we do our reporting. You're seeing what you're authorized to see. So we lock things down generally by department. So for example, you work in a department, you're responsible for a department, you will see what is in that department. A lot of these permissions are handled automatically. We can also grant some permissions manually. So if you're working in a department and you're responsible for it, but you have to oversee another one, we can manually give you access to that additional department and you would see data for that one as well. If you're a manager, you'll see your employees. If you're responsible for a particular school, you'll see the students that are in that school. Typically in Infoport, what we have that you'll see over and over again is a common theme here. We have list reports where you have a set of filters that you enter, you pick what you want, you present a list, and then you'll be able to drill down into details about the subject. And with the areas that I showed you, you're going to see that same theme over and over again. So first starting with student reporting. After you log into Infoport, you'll see generally a number of application areas across the top of the screen. These little tiles are, as we affectionately call them, chiclets. So you click on the student chiclet and you'll be taken to the first tab, which is the term enrollment tab. And you're presented with a couple of different filters that you can choose to select students who are enrolled for a given term. We always start out with a base set of filters and then typically have an advanced button or some other way that you can expand the set of filters that are available to you. So this is the basic set of filters that appear when you launch the screen. This is the expanded set of filters. Each of these little, what look like field labels but are actually buttons, are toggle buttons. And if you click that on, the results will include that data element in the report down here. And every time you run one of these list reports, you can choose whether you want to output it to the screen or to Excel or PDF. So we have a lot of customers who will use Infoport to give themselves a data set. It's a little subset of the data from the data warehouse that they can then take down to their desktop and they can use for reporting. So after entering some parameters in here, I've entered a particular term, enrollment status of yes, academic plan psychology, and I get a bunch of psych students. Of course, these are all fake psych students. But ordinarily, you'd be presented with a list as the parameters that you entered, and then this column of PIDs would be hyperlinks that would then take you to the details page for a given individual. So I could pick a student in this list if I wanted to know more about them. I could click on them, and it would take me to the term enrollment details screen. Now this is divided into a couple of different sections. You have really just some basic student info with some contact information at the top, some academic information in the middle, have their academic organization affiliation, academic plan, and so on, majors, minors, GPA, etc. And then at the bottom, some bio demo information, which got chopped off, and I'm going to show you that on another screen. Next tab over from term enrollment is the degree candidates screen. Now this will offer you candidates for a degree within a given term. So the base filter set is as you see it here. You can pick either an individual term or a term code range, usual academic org, program, and so on. The expanded set of filters also includes a couple more filters, including whether or not you're going to show FERPA data, whether or not they have the FERPA flag set, yes or not. And then after you hit search, you will get a list of the students that meet your parameters that you've chosen. Once again, the PIDs will all be hot links. You can click on one of those, and it will take you to the degree candidate details screen. This one is arranged much like the term enrollment details in that you have some student general information and contact info at the top, some academic information in the middle, then a little bit about what programs they're in and who owns those particular plans, and then some demographic info at the bottom, including ethnicity, etc., and citizenship status. Degree recipients is similar, except that you're actually looking for people who received a degree and within a given term. Also, you can put in a particular term or term code range, and similar filtering to degree candidates. The filter set includes the same set that you saw, although I believe we didn't have person ID on the last screen. You can actually look up an individual on this screen. And then you're presented with a list of degree recipients. Once again, the PID column is hot, hyperlinks, and you can click on any of those to get additional information about a given degree recipient, which tells you, once again, person, contact info, academic information, so academic specific ownership info, like what orgs own their plans, and then some demographic information. One thing I meant to mention is that on any of these Infoport list screens, if you see a column that has a little double-headed arrow next to it, you can sort by that column. Other student reports. So we also incorporate a reporting system called SAS into Infoport via single sign-on. And we use this to enhance the number of reports and the type of reports that we can offer about student data within Infoport. A lot of these are for faculty support, things like this, class instructors meeting patterns, grading patterns, things like that. Now, moving on to HR reporting. You click on the HR chiclet up at the top. You get presented with the first tab under HR, which is the employees list. Once again, you have a set of base filters available to you, but you don't have an advanced button. Instead, the way they're organized within the HR section is you've got a base search, then a bio demo expandable section, and then an incumbent expandable section, which is data pertinent to the incumbent employee within a given job or position. So in the employees list, I would put in the criteria that I want to pull. Here's the expanded filter set just to show you. So here's the bio demo stuff you can pull. Here's some of the incumbent data, also including some of this is faculty specific. And then you get a list of employees. Once again, you get a column of PIDs. Each of these PIDs is a hyperlink that will take you to the employee details screen. Now on the employee details screen, you have employee classification, some general information about the position that they occupy. If a position, if a person that you've clicked in on to get the details from, it has multiple jobs, their jobs will appear in a little table here, and this little table will expand to show all of the jobs that are available for that person. Also, the funding for that particular person will show at the bottom. This is not the best example, it's right over the crack here, but you can see it's the accounting Chartfield string responsible for funding that employee, and if the employee had more than one funding source, they will each funding source will get a row in that little table. On to the next tab over in HR, which is the positions list. So you can select some attributes about a position, and you're presented with a list of positions. Once again, as it's common with any of these Infoport lists, if you've got a column with hyperlinks in it, you can click on a particular item and get details about that item. So let's say I want to look at one particular position in here. I can click on that and get details on that position. This will tell me, for example, my incumbent employee is the Geico Gecko, and the manager's name is Managing McManageface, which is one of our best managers here, you guys, I'm told. Anyways, then at the bottom you get a similar funding table, much like you have on the employees details page, where you have an accounting chart field string showing the breakdown in the funding for each employee. And this will expand out to as many rows as is necessary to accommodate the funding for that position. Most employees have only one position. We have some that have multiples. Most positions have only one incumbent, but that is not always true. If you've got multiple incumbents, if you go back here to the positions list, it'll show you, instead of the incumbent employee information, which ordinarily I have to clear this column out for display on the screen, but this would be a list of names, a list of bids. If you've got more than one, like a position that can have more than one incumbent employee, it will say many here, instead of having the individual incumbents data listed. If you've got no incumbent information, it will just say not available. But if you have one, and there's one available, then it will be the one that's listed. Okay, faculty reporting is a lot like HR reporting. In fact, a lot of the fields are very similar, so that you'll have a set of filters up here. You note that we've got the same expanding sections where you can get some bio demo attributes you can filter on. You can filter a little bit on some tenure data for faculty. So we track, the entire tenure review process, and you can select by some of those attributes as well, including review dates and things like that. Start date and end date. If it's within that range, you will pull up faculty within that range. Just like the employees list, once you put in your criteria and you hit search, you will get presented with a list of faculty that meet those criteria. And you have a list of PIDs, which will be hyperlinks, once again, take you to the details page. Now, I didn't present you faculty details page. It looks almost exactly like the employees page, except with a few pieces of faculty specific information. Should I go with the handout? Yeah, I think. Yeah, if I have to, I'll go with the handout. All right, so additional fields include, you've got basically the addition of the tenure information, tenure status, when it was granted, when it was reviewed, faculty service period, which is, whether they are year-round, I believe there's one for just like fall and spring, additional one for summer. And then we have some other tabs under faculty that allow faculty self-service. We have a system in there that allows them to upload their CV, for example. Another one that tracks faculty activity, like publication activity, presentation activity. Then on to some miscellaneous functionality. So that's it for student reporting, HR reporting, and faculty reporting. Now, Infoport has within it some systems that are not reporting related. Some of these have just been around a long time. Some of them we will likely phase out over time, but at the moment, these things are still in there, and some of them might be useful to some of you. Infoport has within it an approval engine that is used for, it's like a workflow system that you can use to put a request through for something, have it stop at a variety of stops and get approved, not approved at each stop along the way, have documents that are available for review by each stop in the chain, and then a final review and approval at the end. And this has been useful for a few different areas within UNC. We've had them use it for the budget request and reduction process. We've had them use it for faculty review. So anything where you need to have a variety of people within your organization examine something, review it, and either put their stamp of approval on it or not, and make some notes about it. And this is a somewhat useful piece of functionality. Yes?
I know this is about finance, but you can actually use that for departmental routing as well. So for a lot of our finance forms, we'll route them internally rather than having to have it go to all these people's desks. It actually goes through there. They get an email in their inbox that says you're on this approval routing, approve it, and it can get through 5, 6 approvals a day, and
Right
then
on,
you
yeah.
get it to your processor, they can process it.
Yeah, that's great.
Implemented that in the program.
Cool. When did you start using it?
About a year and a half ago.
Excellent.
And it helps you figure out where your bottlenecks are. You don't accidentally have a piece of paper get stuck on some other paper clip and leave somebody's desk.
Yeah.
And you don't ever have to worry about who had it last and where might it be if you can't find it.
And it's secure, it only gets presented to people that need to see it and when they need to see it, and then it's.
And you can update routes. So like if a processor was gonna be out of town for a week, you can take that
Pull
processor
them
on,
out and
put it into another
start
person,
doing
and then
that.
you didn't have to worry about it getting stuck somewhere.
Yeah, that's great. It is actually really useful. We
Yeah,
use it for a number of different things.
that's extremely useful.
So, and actually it touches on the system that Bob's going to talk about here in a little bit also. Thanks. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I just had a list of what's in here. So really, the way that requests are tracked through this process, if they apply to you or they're on a station where you are the person who is responsible for moving that, advancing that request to its next step, it's going to appear in your inbox. So you click on inbox up here, and you'll have this, your request will appear there. I didn't have any in the production system, so I had to go out to our test system where there's a lot of crazy stuff, so I can't really, production inbox would never look like this, but that's where they would appear. One other area that I think you might find useful is under business reference, we have a data dictionary. So if you wanted to know, for example, the data element behind a particular screen in Connect Carolina, you can go in, you can even do this by area. Like by systems area, I selected campus solutions, so I could just get a subset of data elements that pertain to campus solutions. This can be incredibly useful, especially for folks who do reporting. And if you have any questions for me now, we can take a couple briefly. Otherwise, Bob and I intend to have a longer Q&A at the end. So anybody have any quick ones now? If not, I will hand off to the illustrious, impermeable, inevitable Bob Polyashik. Thank you, Bob.
So I'm going to talk about recharge and cores, which to me are the same thing. I'll use them both interchangeably probably here. How to define a core and how we make ordering easier and faster. I went to a conference recently, and the highlight for me, don't tell Rachel, they had live band karaoke. So once a year, I perform with the Bro Brothers, Bro Patrol, that's the name of the thing.
Limited engagement.
Limited, yes, once a year. So you won't have this many chiclets probably, but the far right chiclet is the cores. And that is there whether you're internal or external. So external people can order here. We sell 3 types of things in cores. There's products, services, and timeshares. Timeshares is like time on a microscope or MRI machine or anything you have like that. Services could be staff time, whatever. Products, lab mice, genetic formulas, that kind of stuff. So we have one core that actually rents space on a table. The table just happens to be on the top of a building in a greenhouse. So they charge for square foot. It's kind of cool. Just about anything you have extra to sell could be described as a core recharge. And your transactions will feed into PeopleSoft. So this is the only thing that goes back to PeopleSoft from Infoport. Once a month, I do a pull from all the transactions, all the orders that happen in cores, and feed them into PeopleSoft. And you can see them under the Finance tab in Infoport after they're imported. Okay. So you can't see this. It's really tiny. But anyway, so when you're defining a core, you have to have access to do this, to have core edit access. And the cores, there's a bunch of stuff here. Most of it is like what you want to appear on your invoice, the contact information on your invoice. and the chart field that you want your order money to go into when the PeopleSoft feed happens. The cores consist of items and components. So items are the higher level, and components, you have multiple items and multiple components under an item. So in this, you're defining an item, just an example. And then the top part is when you define a component. You can define 4 prices for that component: internal, affiliate, academic, and corporate. And then down here, this is just an example of the item and then the component underneath it with all the prices. And there can, like I said, there can be multiples here. So new item, add an item there, add a component here. That's how you do it. So when you sell things, you probably want to figure out how many you sold. So there's a sales report. And once again, you need to have access to or edit access to use this. But so it's a sales tab. It basically just tells you total of the orders that have been placed. And if you want details on the items that were in the order, there's a down arrow. You can click to see that. This is the NIH report, which is different. It will list, there's actually multiple lines for each order, because it'll show the total and then the items and components under there. And on the upper right, if you hit account, it'll show you payment details, the account number, description, and your PI information and agency and award number. So NIH wants all that stuff. If you have access to multiple cores, there's a consolidated report, so you can add up all your core sales together and get one report. And I didn't mention that all of these are exportable as Excel, PDF, you can mess with. And then it's just like the sales report, you can expand and see all the items underneath that. We also have a SaaS dashboard that does some neat graphic, and there's actually a map on there. If you sell internationally, you can see where all your orders came from. We are still soliciting requests here. We kind of just came up with this ourselves. And down at the bottom, there is details on sales also. Good question.
Is there a way to drill down to like specific items? Like I want to know I sold 27 of widget A versus 28 of widget B.
This will supply that.
Okay.
So if you have core edit access, you should have this.
Okay.
And this is also dynamic, so you can see all the credit card orders if you want. By just click on that, it'll change on the fly. So next, I'm going to how we make ordering easier. So, like the king that shoots the arrow and everything's a bullseye, we're trying to make it easier to, because once you get to the actual order page, there's a lot here. You have the originator, the PI's contact information, could be a billing address, shipping address, the details of the order, and then the chart field. We have the hardest problem with getting chart fields right, because students can actually order stuff and they just make up whatever they want. And so one way we help make things easier is you enter a PI's name, and this is, you can talk about this if you went to the tips and tricks. You type in somebody's name, it'll autofill all the email, phone, and address information. So we don't have to type that in.
How do you?
It's probably test data.
Yeah.
So another way to make it easier is if your PI uses grants, you can type in that PI name, it'll autofill, but then also over here, you can find the grant for that PI. And all the chart field will populate automatically if you do that. So you can define that anytime you want. If you're ordering using the same PI and chart field all the time, pretend it's a grant. You just do that pull down and say new grant, and it'll help. You still have to type PI in first because it's associated. Okay, here we are for project ID. So once again, chart fields are the problem. So if you know the project chart field you're using is associated with, you can look up that project same way you look up a name. Select it, and the chart field will fill in. Now, this might not be 100% correct, but it autofills. So you can type over it. So the one it pulls up is actually a valid transaction that went through the system at some time. I don't know when that was. It makes a good guess, but it may not be correct. So here is one of the newest things we've done is your core accountant or your PI accountant can define the chart fields to use for a PI. And a list of them will appear on the order page right before the chart field string. And if you select one, it will fill it in. Now, this is what the accountant gets to decide. Which chart fields are approved, which ones are expired, so because you have start and end date, and when the end date happens, those won't show up on this list, on the order form, and also previous orders. So if you have authority, you can define these for a PI. So you can talk to me or an ARC or something, and we'll keep going.
Take the chart code off, would it stop a student or someone from ordering off a closed grant?
No.
Okay.
So the problem I have with chart fields is that I don't know if it's a new chart field. So I'm going to allow a new chart field to be used. And also, I don't know if a chart field expires before my feed goes through. So I let anything through. And that's part of the problem, but I don't have a solution unless I budget check, but then I have to budget check again. What if it expires? So if you place an order with a bad chart field, you will probably get an email, an automated email that says what actually happened with the order.
Well, what usually happens is that just goes to suspense, which I can fix it now.
Correct. It will go to suspense, and if you own the core, you'll get your money. But the other side, they have to correct it. There's going to be suspense on their side. And they will, I have a system now that emails when the chart field is bad, and it'll detail some of it's fuzzy, like the source was bad, or something like that. Budget expired, whatever. Yeah. Right. So, so if you place multiple orders in a row, the second order, all the data will auto-populate from the first. So one order after another, the next order will have the same data as the previous order, so you just overtype. Understand, Sally?
I get it.
All right. And then imported orders, we were just talking about this. If you do a bunch of orders, we have a core that does charges for copies and sends a copy. It's not worth going through the whole order form to do this. So they have a file they prepare with all the orders in it. It's a CSV file, and I can work with you if you want to do this. Basically, you got a bunch of orders, small amounts. It's not worth you typing everything in. So there's a whole bunch of error checking that goes on to make sure it's good. You can even bypass the inbox, so you don't have to go through the route. You can go right to complete, which means we trust what you put in there. So we hope it's right. All right, that's my deal. Any questions? Anybody can guess where that is? Got any guesses?
Italy?
That's a good guess. It is in Europe. England?
Finland.
Finland?
Czechoslovakia.
I haven't been many places, so. This is Prague.
There's no.
This is near the Kafka Museum. I don't know why there's penguins.
That's good.
But he worked. So, for me or Dan, any questions, anybody?
So, because in order to get a call, you have to have approved recharge account? How do you start the call? You have to have like,
Right, so I'm not really supposed to say this, but I'm going to anyway. If you have something to sell, you need to get it PeopleSoft, you can use this.
without having recharge.
Yes. We can talk later.
Okay.
You can't bill NIH though. You have to be an approved recharge to be able to bill an NIH.
Correct.
So
Yes.
if you're just billing like trust accounts or Med Foundation
Right.
or something, sure, but
And if the system does accept credit cards, then you can, for external only. So don't log in with your onion, you can still place an order. Take a credit card, or use a purchase order. If you want to track it. Of course, all the data will be in Infoporte, then you won't go to PeopleSoft. For external. Right?
Yeah, external. Then we can, yeah, out of country is the same, right?
Yes. Right? Yes. Why are they called cores?
Never understood that since that day after.
Can I make something up?
Sure.
Core of influence? I don't know. I guess. Yeah, it could be. So I get to work with the shopping cart. Nobody else does. That's kind of cool. So. Anybody else?
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.